Thank you for joining me again for the Real Rescue podcast, powered by Vertical Helicast. This part 2 episode is being brought to you by AxeNest. Their mission, wireless intercom. When lives are at stake and conditions are challenging, clear communication is of the utmost importance. Check them out today at axenest.com. And now we are back for part 2 with my Finn brother from class 1000, United States Coast Guard rescue swimmer number 502, Mr. Matt Theissen. My name is Jason Quinn. I am United States Coast Guard rescue swimmer number 500. These are my rescues and rescues from those of us that put our lives on the line every day so others may live. This is the Real Rescue Podcast.
Good times.
All right, well, let's bring us up to Kodiak, Alaska, because that was your next unit. When you get there, we're going to actually go over 2 of your award rescue cases up there. And let me bring those up. So this is the first award you got. You earned yourself a Coast Guard Commendation Medal for a rescue. Let me just get right into it, and then you bring us to it from there. All right. Citation to accompany the award of the Coast Guard Commendation Medal to Matthew J. Theissen, Aviation Survival Technician, 2nd Class, United States Coast Guard. Pastor Theissen is cited for outstanding achievement while serving as rescue swimmer aboard Coast Guard Helicopter 6509 on 27 February 2008. Early that morning, the crew was dispatched from Cold Bay, Alaska, to evacuate a severely injured crewman suffering from head trauma and multiple seizures from the fishing vessel Tradition, 11 miles south of Unimak Island. Utilizing the hour-long transit, he prepared the cabin for hoisting operations while briefing the flight mechanic on the procedures for deployment and recovery of the injured mariner. Arriving on scene, Pastor Theissen readied the litter and courageously deployed in gusty 40-knot winds, blinding snow squalls, and 15-foot seas to the heaving vessel. While on deck, he quickly forced his attention on examining the patient, collecting valuable information regarding the crewman's health, which expedited treatment and recovery despite being knocked off his feet several times in the tumultuous conditions. With the helicopter's fuel status becoming critically low, Pastor Theissen commonly guided the 55-foot fishing vessel into position, enabling the safe hoist of the patient from the small, obstacle-laden area near the pilot house. Once back in the Coast Guard helicopter, he continued treating the injured patient despite frequent moderate turbulence during the transmit to Cold Bay, and then transferring to a waiting life flight aircraft. His professionalism and decisive actions were instrumental in saving the life of this critical ill mariner. Pastor Theissen's dedication, judgment, and devotion to duty are most heartily commended in keeping with the highest traditions of the United States Coast Guard. Dude, that is awesome. Holy shit. All right. Take us through it, man. How long had you been in Kodiak at that point? Because that's 2008.
That was my 4th year in Kodiak. So I did first 3 on the 60 side, and then I did 2, switched over to Alpat. So this case was with 65s. So 2008, 2009, I was with Alpat.
Nice. So I might actually be jumping ahead with it. You know what? We're going to come back. What happened with this case?
This case was the one thing that was that stuck out the most was the weather. We took off. We thought about postponing until first light because the weather was so crappy. But judging by the weather and how it had been the last couple of days, we didn't think it was going to improve any by first light, so we just decided to go. And it was so windy that we were basically crabbing the whole time. And if you don't know what crabbing is, you're flying pretty much sideways because the wind shear kicks the plane nose into it, like you're weather vaning, right, to keep going in a certain direction, kind of like tacking with a sailboat, right? But one of the tough things with crabbing is as the nose of the helicopter turns, the sweep of radar in front of you, you lose a little bit of that because now you're traveling so many degrees to one direction or the other, right? But the radar only swings so much.
far.
Your
Yeah.
radar isn't 360 degrees around the plane. So we were crabbing so much that we were missing our radar picture of a lot of the stuff that was off to the right of us as we were transiting. Come to find out, we flew the same track a couple days later when the weather had gotten better, and the visibility was so low that we had to fly low and slow over the water. But after we ran that track, we realized how close we were coming to terrain, mountains that were coming up out of the ocean. So we stayed over water the whole time, and we thought we were keeping a good safe distance from these cliffs. But after flying the same track, when the weather was better, we realized that we came dangerously close to some cliffs on the way out. When we got out there, the waves were so big, the boat was taking green water over the top.
Oh, wow.
It was solid. It wasn't just deeper. It was thick waves coming over the front. I don't really remember the details of going down to the boat, but once I got down on the boat, I remember I went down into the cabin, and they had put this guy. He had taken a header down the stairs, landed headfirst at the bottom of the stairs, and the head was, or the toilet was right at the bottom of the stairs. So he basically went headfirst down the stairs into the bathroom and smashed the toilet with his head.
Oh, God.
So and messed up his back and his neck and whatever. And they had moved him into one of the berthing quarters, which was bunks, and definitely no room for a litter. So I brought the backboard in there, but the backboard still was too tight. So we had to do a couple strategic moves to get him onto the backboard. I brought him up out of the cabin and then put him in the litter and hoisted him up and out of there. But yeah, the boat was moving, and we were getting wet. I remember I had him in a hypothermic bag, a wiggy bag.
Yeah.
And we were taking so much water over, but by the time we got up the helo, that he was drenched, and it was just it was a wet mess for sure.
Well, heck, you're in 15-foot waves rolling on this boat.
Yeah.
It's a 55-foot fishing vessel. So like when you start talking like 15-foot waves with a 55-foot fishing vessel, it's not.
Yeah, the waves are a
that.
third the size of the boat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Dude, it's rolling. It's pitching and rolling all day long.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. And you guys went back to Coal Bay and dropped them off?
Back at Coal Bay. Yeah, that was pretty standard. We usually, there's a little clinic there, but usually we'd have Life Flight pop in there too for more serious situations like this. So yeah, he got life flighted out of there.
Oh my gosh, dude. Holy shit. Well done to you and the crew.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Damn, man. All right. I'm going to go to the next one. All right. Because
Okay.
you actually have two of them. Like I said, another commendation medal. Let me bring it up. 2009. Here's the write-up. Citation to accompany the award of the Coast Guard Commendation Medal, Gold Star in lieu of second, to Matthew J. Theissen, Aviation Survival Technician, First Class, United States Coast Guard. Petty Officer Theissen is cited for heroic achievement while serving as rescue swimmer aboard Coast Guard Helicopter 6573 on 30 January 2009. In the pre-dawn hours, the crew was dispatched from Cold Bay, Alaska to evacuate a severely injured crew member with severe head trauma from the fishing vessel Kodiak. Vertigo-inducing weather with blowing snow, 100-foot ceilings, zero visibility, and icing conditions forced a crew to make the 90-mile transit through mountainous terrain at only 150 feet above the water. Once overhead the fishing vessel Kodiak, the crew determined a dead in the water hoist, although the most difficult, would be the safest. During the first deployment attempt, the large seas and 30-knot winds caused Pedaster Thiessen to swing with great force, impacting the crane. The mission could have been aborted, but after assessing his injuries, Pedaster Thiessen courageously decided to continue without the stability of the trail line, a maneuver never practiced due to the extreme risk associated with such a maneuver. The second attempt was successful, but as the patient was being hoisted, the extreme conditions again compromised the swing of the litter with the deckhand inside toward the pilot house. Pedaster Thiessen quick reactions stabilized the litter and prevented further injury to the patient. Once back on board the helicopter, he stabilized the injured crew member's rapidly decreasing heart rate during the transit back to Cole Bay and transferred him to the awaiting life flight aircraft. His professionalism and decisive actions were instrumental in saving the life of this critically ill mariner. Pedaster Thiessen's dedication, judgment, and devotion to duty are most heartily commended in keeping with the highest traditions of the United States Coast Guard. Bro, this is like a repeat from the first one a year earlier. What?
Yeah, almost identical. Launching out of Cold Bay, pretty much the same region, very similar tracks that we took out there. The weather was different. It was dark. I remember that being the one thing that stood out to me. It was so incredibly dark. It was like, if you had a flashlight and you turned it on and you aimed it out into the darkness, you wouldn't see the beam. It was just, the light was being swallowed up.
Wow.
If you ever had one of those nights where it's just, you have your landing hover lights on and you can barely see the water below you, kind of thing. So we get on scene, and there was snow. It was snowing, but it was so, and maybe that's why it was so dark. The snow was helping absorb the light or something. I don't know. But we show up, and all we can see is the deck of the boat, and it being as dark as it was, it just looked like it was just hovering out in space, because the deck lights, you could barely make out the water around the boat, and we had our landing hover lights on and our searchlight, and it was just the deck of that boat that you could see. You couldn't see the bow of the boat, you couldn't see the fantail. It was just this crab boat deck, and it was the classic setup that you see on like the Deadliest Catch, how they have the big crane and then the section area where they work with the big 8x8 whatever crab pots, and a dumping area, but that's all you could see. And so we're coming in, and I'm in the door getting ready to deploy, and this was, I would say, is probably the only case where I felt this uneasiness. I just didn't like it. I was like, what the heck am I doing here? Something was off. So we come down, and I come to find out later that the flight mech, he had been around for a couple of years, but this was his first SAR case, first live hoist in a live operational situation. He had only done training hoists. Didn't know that at the time, though. Good friend of mine, Blaze Potts, and yeah, he said he learned a lot from this case also. But so they lower me down. Yeah, they lower me down, and I'm going down, and we're probably hanging off the side of the port side of the ship, maybe 20 feet, and they lower me down, and I level off just at the top of the gunwale, and I'm signaling them to move in, and they're inching in, and then they're backing off. Okay, so I continue to signal, go this way, go over here. They creep in. I get just maybe a foot from the railing, and they back off again. Come to find out that every time that pilot would get to just that point, he was losing the target under his butt. And since it was so dark, he had no other references. I didn't know that at that time, so I'm signaling like, what the heck is going on? I had a trail line. The plan was for me to go down, get on deck. The trail line was already hooked onto the small hook on the hoist. I was going to get down, disconnect, send the trail line up to retrieve the litter because it was such a dynamic hoisting environment. So they finally get me up over the hand railing, but they had also come up a little bit and the flight mech hadn't lowered me down. So now we're maybe 3 feet above where I had asked to be leveled off. I wanted to be leveled off so I'd come in and touch that handrail and have a positive point of contact so they could let me down and I'd be stable. But now I'm a couple feet above it, and so I come over the deck, and as I come over the deck, the flight mech lowers me down finally below the handrail, but I'm not able to touch the deck. So I'm trying to stretch my legs out to try to get some kind of positive contact, because now I'm starting to do this. They're starting to get like a gyro effect kind of thing, where
Big
the plane is
oscillation.
moving. Yeah, like the plane was moving forward, and I'd swing, and then they come back, and I think the pilot was trying to find his reference again, and I start to get this swing, this pendulum going, and then I start heading across the deck super fast. The pilot had lost a reference, and I come up towards this crane, and then I feel the plane going back. I actually look up and I see the plane pulling back super fast, and the pilot definitely had lost his reference. And then he comes forward again. So that crane that I swung towards, the base of the crane, the first swing, now I'm back out over the side of the boat, and then now I'm coming back at twice the speed. And this crane, it's I don't know, it's a massive crane, probably 5 foot diameter crane with bolts and rivets all around the flange where the top of the crane connects to the base, and it's covered with ice. And on the second swing, I'm coming in, and I'm actually kind of rotated, coming in back first. So I know I'm going to hit it because I can see above me that the helicopter has not only moved forward, but has moved forward to a point where now I'm kind of looking up at the tail. So it had punched forward a good 20 feet, and I know I'm going into this crane. So as I come into the crane, I kind of brace for it, but I have enough I don't know, intuition or whatever you call it, instincts, to kind of do the gyro thing with my feet and get my feet turned just in time before I hit it, and I drive in with my right foot. Ended up found out later I broke that foot, and after I hit the crane, broke my foot, and then twisted in, and my side impacted and broke some ribs.
Oh,
Didn't know it at the time. I had adrenaline goes. I didn't know it at the time. Came back over the deck, and I'm just like, what the hell's going on? And I'm worried I don't want to hit that crane again. So I give the wave off, cancel, and they back off, and the flight mech brings me up. And I think I may have actually turned and give the flight mech the bird. What the hell are you guys doing up there? I come up, I talk to the flight mech a little bit, but he didn't communicate to the pilots that I had hit anything. So I'm talking to him, like, he's like, "Are you okay?" Yeah, I'm okay. It's like, let's go for it again, but forget the trail line. Just get me down there on the deck. And I had a couple words with him where I said, "Don't wait for me to be in the perfect spot to put me down. Just when I'm over the deck, drop me down." Right?
right.
Because sometimes you wait for it to get better and it doesn't get better. It just gets worse. And obviously that's what was going on in this situation. So the second time, Wasn't as pretty, but they did finally get me down on deck. Ended up dumping me on one of the cross deck wires that holds the crab pots. But I disconnect and I walk over, and this is just the beginning of the case. I just got down on the boat, right? That's step one. Get to the boat, get down on the deck. I'm walking over to these guys where the guy's laying, the injured man's laying, and one of the fellas says, he taps me on the shoulder. He's like, "Hey, how's that guy doing?" I said, "What? Like what guy? What are you talking about?" The guy that hit the crane. I was like, "That's me." He's like, he couldn't understand it. He's like, "That guy hit the crane so hard that he can't imagine that that was me, because he thought the guy would, whoever hit the crane obviously is not down on the boat walking around. He thought it was so he
Oh
said,
my God, Matt.
he was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm fine," but I had the adrenaline running through me. So I go and check out the patient, and they say his head's crushed. And I pull up his hat, and the guy's looking at me. He's talking, but I'm also looking at his brain, which is never a good thing, right? So it's not bleeding too much. So I put the hat back on, and I say, "Okay, it's go time. This guy really needs to get going." And we've spent way too much time just getting me down on this boat. So from there is kind of just went through the motions. Get the litter on deck, get the guy in the litter, hoist him up and out of there. And yeah, cruise back, and yeah, life flight him out of there. But
Oh my God.
so I'm injured, but I only had a couple days left of deployment. I kind of keep it for my pilots. I don't know. I'm like, I just suck it up. I didn't realize that I broke my foot or my ribs at the time. But as the days go on, I'm in pretty bad shape, and get back to Kodiak and medical, and come to find out, yeah, I had some pretty good injuries from that SAR case. But
Bro. Oh my God, dude. What the? Dude, that's insane.
yeah, that was a wild one. So
Damn, man. You know what? It's kind of interesting you telling me this too. I just learned not too long ago. All the guys in the UK, they actually wear body armor. So for stuff like that,
yeah,
yeah, like back and
I
chest
could have
armor.
used it. Could have used it. I mean, I had a dry suit on with with the fleece undergarments under there, but yeah, nothing, no body armor, which I could have used. Yeah, for sure.
Not that it would have helped your ankle. Oh my God. Broken ankle
No,
and broken ribs.
well,
Jesus.
not broken ankle, broken foot, just
Oh,
behind the big toe. So I went in
oh.
and I stomped basically to stop myself from stop the swing, and it just flipped me and crunched it. Yeah,
Wow, man. Holy
not
shit.
a fun one. Not a fun one.
Yeah, no doubt. On the back end with the pickup of the patient, or actually even the delivery of the litter, um,
Yeah.
like no issues. Like once they got you on deck, they're like,
Oh,
okay, now we got it. Or
actually, no. The pilot continued to have issues with maintaining a reference. When they moved in to pick up the litter, I had the trail line on there, luckily, but it got swinging really badly, and I had to stop it from running into the pilot house. It actually swung one time as it's coming up, swung up under the metal awning, and
holy smoke.
I was able to pull it back out from under the awning just before it went up and finally made it to the helo. So yeah, it wasn't. It was definitely a hairy hoist for sure. The whole thing was hairy.
Great word.
Yeah,
The whole
yeah,
thing was hairy. Dude,
yeah,
that's insane, is what that is. That's
yeah,
awesome. Well done to you and your crew. Holy
yeah,
shit, man. Bro.
yeah, yeah. Blaze Potts. I talked to him. I ran into him several years after that, and he ended up being stationed out here in Elizabeth City, and I talked to him quite a bit about that, and he learned a lot from that and shared that with other flight mechs. And yeah, so, you know, silver lining.
Yeah,
There's
definitely.
things to be learned all the time. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm sorry you got injured on that one, but wow, badass, dude. Well done. Well done. Way to pull out of that one. Freaking sick, dude. All right. So I know. All right. So now you're in Alpat for 2 years. Prior to that, you're in Kodiak. Does anything stand out to you in Kodiak?
Mm, I mean, it was the weather, the cold for sure, you know.
Right.
Um, but Kodiak, it was definitely a different operational tempo from New Orleans. It wasn't as, you weren't getting as many cases. Uh, and there were actually long dry spells. If you've been stationed in Kodiak, you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
You go weeks, even months without anybody getting anything big. But when they did have cases up there, they were, um, it was the show. It was, they're Super Bowl cases,
Yeah.
you know.
They're big.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Right
and
on, man.
Alaska is so vast, you know. So the transits there, you're covering half the country sometimes, you know, half the size of the United States, and
Right.
that's your Alaska AOR. I had a case. I was on duty. It was Larry Zonka was filming a fishing show. I don't know if you know Larry Zonka.
I do not.
I think he's a Hall of Fame football player. Um, he had a fishing show, and their boat was sinking way out the Aleutian chain. Um, Transit out there was 8.5 hours, I think. So what ended up happening
Oh
was
my God.
I was on duty. I flew the plane all the way out there, landed the plane. C-130 brought a second crew to do the mission. They do the mission. They get all the glory. They have all the fun. I think it was actually on the Discovery Channel, that episode with Larry Zonka. They come back, drop off a dirty plane for us. We get our rest, and we fly the plane all the way back.
Yep.
So, yeah.
I had one of those
That's
moments there too.
Did you? Did you? Yeah.
Totally did.
Like I'm
Son
on
of
duty.
a-
I'm on duty, and I'm not going to get to be the one that's doing the hoisting. Come on. But
Oh my
yeah,
gosh, that's funny.
it's all good. You know,
It's all
you're
good.
part of the mission.
Yep. It's all good. It's all good. Hey,
Mhm.
it's how it falls. Sometimes you're the guy being called at home. Sometimes you're the guy that got to ferry the aircraft.
Yep. Yep. So,
Dude, that's funny. All right. Well, outside of one other one that you earned in Alaska, which we're going to talk about later, you then leave to Hawaii.
yes.
So in
Yep.
Hawaii, there's an award that I want to talk about, and that is this is where you earned your second achievement medal. So this is what this one says. Citation to accompany the award of the Coast Guard Achievement Medal, Gold Star in lieu of second to Matthew J. Theissen, Aviation Survival Technician, First Class, United States Coast Guard. Pastor Theissen is cited for superior performance of duty while serving as rescue swimmer aboard Coast Guard helicopter 6571 on 6 January 2012. At approximately 12:30, Air Station Barbers Point received a call from the District 14 Command Center requesting the launch of the H-65 to respond to the Kilo Moana, a 186-foot University of Hawaii research vessel taking on water approximately 60 miles north of Oahu. Pastor Theissen volunteered to be part of the second crew and quickly began response preparations. Once on scene, the Kilo Moana was found dead in the water with opposing winds and experiencing a combined list and roll of 20 degrees, making a hoist from any position difficult. Pastor Theissen rapidly assessed the situation using experienced risk management principles to make the final decision to deploy. He cautiously descended while simultaneously guiding the dewatering punt around several hazards, including an 85-foot whip antenna, deck fittings, and an anchor chain and block. Once on board, His expertise was immediately showcased as he repaired a seized dewatering pump, started a fourth pump, and managed the relentless flooding. Along with his fellow rescue swimmer, he painstakingly rotated 4 pumps between 3 decks of the vessel and monitored oxygen levels in the confined space to ensure crew safety and prevent pump failure. He clearly relayed the conditions and challenges to his pilots, enabling the decision to retrieve a jet inductor and proved instrumental in controlling the flooding. In addition, Pedestal Thiessen provided training to the vessel's crew in the operation of the dewatering pumps, enabling effective flood control for 16-hour transit back to port. His efforts directly contributed to protecting $54 million of public property and assisting 40 lives. Pedestal Thiessen's diligence, perseverance, and devotion to duty are most heartily commended in keeping with the highest traditions of the United States Coast Guard. Holy shit, dude. $54 million boat sinking
Yeah, that's not a cheap boat, is it?
4 pumps between 3 levels, and you're helping dewater that sucker. Holy
Well, yeah, four pumps down 3 decks with the inline eductor, and the bilge going. And without that inline inductor, we actually had that transferred over. The plane went and grabbed it off the Coast Guard cutter Ahi, I believe. They donated their inline inductor, and without that, we wouldn't have made any headway on it, because what we had going, the pumps that we had going in there, it was a pump rodeo. It was Ilima Mayava was my other brother on this case. He got there
Wait,
on
who was it?
scene about Ilima Mayava.
Nah, I don't know. Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
he's
Nice.
he was a stand team chief, and now he's out in Barbers Point, back out in Barbers Point, making
Sweet.
senior chief now. So
Ah, good
yeah,
for him.
yeah, he's got it good. So he deserves it though. But yeah, we he got out there about an hour and a half before I did, just after lunch, and then I think they only took 1 pump with them, and the ship had a pump, and they needed more pumps. And since they're taking 2 more pumps, I said, "You guys need any help?" It was coming up on the end of the shift, and people were heading home. But I just thought I'd hop in and help out with this one. And yeah, it was a fun one. This was a fun case. It was a very unique case. We never touched the water, but we were outfitted to. We were both wearing wetsuits. Alima made the mistake of wearing a full body suit, though. It was a hot day, and I think he dehydrated himself on this case. He had a full suit that he when I showed up, he had rolled his legs up and rolled his sleeves back, but he was drenched. So it was a warm day, but it was even hotter down where we were working the pumps. We had pumps that we had to run indoors, in the cabin area, because just the space wouldn't allow us with the suction hoses and the discharge hoses to set them up outside. It was 3 decks down, so we had to get them close enough to the source of the flooding. So it was basically down into just next to the engine room, a little scuttle in the deck where we had these hoses going down into the flooding area. And a couple of the deck crew guys down there were doing damage control. So Elima and I, we didn't have to go down into the actual flooded space, but we were on the deck above it, and we were just managing these pumps. And it seemed like just once we would get 1 pump running, the pump that had been running before it would seize up, or lose the suction or whatever. So we were just going back and forth. It was for hours, actually. I got there around 2 in the afternoon, and we didn't get the boat stabilized until 5 or 6 o'clock at night. So the sun was down by the time we made it back to base. Yeah,
Wow.
we had so we had 4 pumps going at one time. We had all 4 pumps running with the bilge, and it wasn't keeping up. and I believe it was our pilot, Captain Matt Matsuoka now, who suggested we go and retrieve the inline eductor from the Coast Guard cutter Ahi. So he went and grabbed that for us, dropped it off, and luckily was because we normally don't get training on that, but I had knowledge of that from my buoy tender years, being on the damage control team and knowing the
Nice.
fire main. So when they make you draw the fire main to get qualified as a watch stander, it's not all for nothing. You know, you do learn from these things, and through that, doing all that damage control syllabus on the boat, I was, had the training to know how to hook up that inline eductor and get it incorporated with the fire main. And basically what that does is it's the Venturi effect, right?
Yeah.
We use those to suck down our rafts. The amount of air that goes into the inductor, it gives the Venturi effect. And as it passes another valve in there or part of the manifold, it creates a vacuum and it starts to suck the same amount of pressure going past it, sucks it in. So whatever that fire main's pushing, the fire main was much stronger than the pumps that we had running. And that was able to give us that headway to actually start offloading water to the point where we were floating. But there was a moment in there, and I talked to Alima about this. We were starting to list so bad, and we had taken on so much water that we were telling guys to get out of the spaces, and it happened twice where the boat took a roll, and this was a catamaran. It wasn't your normal 200 foot boat. It was basically two 200-foot ships with a big superstructure behind it, and
Okay.
one of those ship sponsons, that was the side that was flooding. The other one wasn't flooding, obviously, but it created this kind of teeter-totter effect. So almost a worse scenario than if you just had a single hull. The single hull, it's gonna balance on itself, but with that extra sponson, as that one gets lifted up, it wants to keel over. So we had a couple instances where we took a swell, and the sponson on the starboard side was so full of water that it kind of stopped and bounced on that, and the lights flickered, and everybody stopped and looked at each other. And we're all thinking the same thing. We're like, "This is it. We're going over." And then it settled back down, and nobody said anything. Just got back to work, and that happened a couple times. So that was pretty stressful. One of the things I thought of, days, weeks later, or whatever, if I could have done anything differently, I've probably, because you don't know the map of the ship, I would have taken a trail line and hooked it to a handrail on the outside and used that as like breadcrumbs to get out. Because if you're in a ship several decks down, you don't know the ship at all. And then if you flip it upside down and turn the lights out, you're in a maze, right?
Oh yeah.
So, if I were to do it again, I would try to use that technique and use the trail line to walk down to the space that I was working in. So if something happened like that, if I could make it to that trail line, I could use that as a lifeline to get out.
What a great idea. Yeah.
Yeah, just things you don't think about until you're in a situation where you might need something like that.
Yeah.
Use the trail line as breadcrumbs to get out. But luckily,
And
we didn't have to get out of there. But it makes you think about these kind of things, right? So
yeah, for sure. I got a couple questions for you. So
Yep.
first one, were the pumps, because they're on 3 different decks, were you pumping water to another deck and then out of that deck?
we tried that for a little bit, and it was that was a lot of work. So we were pumping up into a pump can,
Yeah.
and then having another pump draw out of that pump can over. But it was really tedious. And if one pump quit, either the one sucking out of the pump can or the one putting into the pump can, if the one drawing water into the pump can quit, then
Yeah.
it would go dry, which would kill the second pump. And then if the second pump died, then the first one would just fill up that pump can, and now you've got a deck up above that's filling with water. So
Oh my
yeah, that was a
gosh.
lot of work. We eventually found the fire hoses on the ship actually had the same fitting as the pumps. We found that out through trial and error after about 2 hours, and we started using the fire hoses as the discharge hose, and it wasn't pumping out like the solid filled hose you normally see because
Yep.
of the static lift, but we were moving water, and we had to tend the pumps and keep it primed because of that extra lift and everything. But that ended up working also. But
Wow, man.
not pumping at the full pump capacity, but it worked. So
Um,
yeah,
that's crazy, man.
yeah,
What was your all right with the helicopters? So you're the second swimmer on scene.
yeah.
The two of you guys are working together. Is there, I mean, 5 hours you're talking on scene. Those
Mhm.
helicopters aren't staying. Were they going back and forth
They
to
were going
keep
back and
cover?
forth.
Okay.
It was probably a 40-minute transit. So
Oh
um,
wow.
so they were going back and forth and refueling, sticking around for a bit. We had a C-130 flying overhead too. That was you know, and then eventually the cutter Ahi showed up, but they had a good steam to meet up with us. By the time they showed up, the sun was going down and things had calmed down, and it was stable, and the boat was able to start making way back to safer waters, and yeah, back to port. So
Wow, man. Well done. Holy
thanks. Yeah,
cow.
the
Dude, that's awesome.
pump rodeo. That was the pump rodeo case.
50 was it $54 million boat, 40
Yep,
people on board,
yep.
and
Mostly students. They were all college students. It was a NOAA research vessel, I believe, that was, I don't know if it was a Navy boat or is maintained by the Navy. They help NOAA maintain it, but it was a unique boat for sure. I had never seen a vessel like that. So yeah, it was wild.
holy shit, dude. Oh gosh, that's crazy. Dude, well done. Well done.
Thanks.
Um, all right. Anything else that stands out to you in Hawaii?
Oh man, I just missed the place. I got to get back there. But yeah, no, I mean Hawaii. Again, yeah, different op tempo. We had Hawaii Fire Department (HFD). They had their own search and rescue, surf rescue mostly. I'm sure you've seen Hawaii 50 and stuff like that.
Yeah,
They're little yellow birds, right?
the little
And we work with
koala.
them a
Or
lot.
no, it's a little MD helicopter or something, right? Like it's a
Uh,
tiny. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Single engine, one pilot, no flight
yeah.
deck.
I think
Yeah,
it's an MD. They only do long line stuff. It's pretty
yeah, yeah,
gnarly what they do. But
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But they would end up normally taking. They would take the majority of the surf rescue cases and anything onshore, kind of cliff type stuff. I worked with them once on a hang glider that went down just off of Diamond Head, but they usually handle that stuff. So when I was getting transferred out to Hawaii, I'm thinking I'm going to do some surf rescues type stuff like that, and but no, they handle most of that. We do the stuff um, after sundown because we have the NVG capabilities and stuff like that. So did have some surf cases at night, but usually surf cases at night if the person hasn't made it in and it's big enough surf, you're not. We would rarely find anybody after dark. So, but yeah, we would get the majority of the stuff we would get was offshore stuff, boats taking on water, people getting lost. So yeah, plane crashes, that kind of stuff.
Jeez, oh
Yeah,
man. Holy cow.
Hawaii was a good time. Yeah, you get
Very
lost in
cool.
Hawaii.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
So that's one spot I haven't been to yet. I need to get out there. So it's probably
Good. Yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, we'll make it happen. Okay. I like this idea. We're gonna divert real quick to thank our sponsors.
AXNIS. The AXNIS PNG wireless ICS system delivers cutting-edge wireless ICS technology to any aircraft as a fully integrated system or as a carry-on, carry-off mobile base station. The PNG wireless system is the right solution for any mission.
All right. In that case, if we're gonna move to Houston, Texas. So you roll into Houston. Houston is another kind of busy unit or busier, similar to
Yeah.
New Orleans. And I don't think it's as
Right.
busy as New Orleans, but you still have offshore rigs. You've got stuff like that that's out there.
Yeah,
A lot of
very,
shipping
very
channels.
similar. Yeah, you're doing the same type of vessels. It's a very similar community, you know, fishing type stuff, some cruise ships, some recreational fun out there. So yeah.
Love it. And while you were there, you were part of a hurricane that came through, which just so happened was Hurricane Harvey. In that,
Yeah.
you actually earned yourself a second air medal. So congratulations on that, as well as because you were the chief at the time of the area and you were in charge of the entire operation. So you earned yourself a Meritorious Service Medal. Congratulations on that. Well done, sir. Now, for me, what I want to do is I want to hear about you getting launched out. So let me read this one and then we get into the whole story. Citation to accompany the award of the Air Medal, Gold Star in lieu of second to Matthew J. Theissen, Chief Aviation Survival Technician, United States Coast Guard. Chief Petty Officer Theissen is cited for heroic achievement in aerial flight while serving as Coast Guard rescue swimmer at Air Station Houston, Texas, from 27 August to 1 September 2017 during the historic response to Hurricane Harvey. Launching in 45-knot winds, ceilings less than 200 feet, and visibility less than 1 mile. With an air crew unfamiliar with the Houston area, Chief Petty Officer Theissen expertly assisted in navigating the aircraft through the dense urban infrastructure and deployed to a rooftop amidst live high-voltage power lines and towers to rescue civilians requiring immediate medical care. After triaging the evacuees and identifying the most critical individuals, 2 women in labor, he deftly directed the 7 hoist safely through narrow corridor between the obstacles. Again, demonstrating bravery by launching into the dead of night with blinding rain, 40-knot winds, less than 1/4 mile visibility, and cloud ceilings less than 150 feet. He assisted in navigation the treacherous and nearly invisible hazards to transport 2 critically ill children who were rapidly succumbing to their conditions in the overwhelmed hospital that would not survive without elevation to higher care. Using his skills as a senior emergency medical technician, he coordinated the first responders to prepare the patients for a time-critical transport. Chief Petty Officer Theissen's actions, skills were instrumental in the rescue of 28 lives. His courage, judgment, and devotion of duty are most heartily commended in keeping with the highest traditions of the United States Coast Guard. Matt, dude, sick. Bro, congratulations. Also, a little side note on that, chief of the shop. So a lot of times, and I'm just going to speak frankly, like you're in charge. It's the younger guys that are going out. That's not you. So
Right.
good,
Well,
mad props to you for going with it, man. That's awesome.
right. Well, the thing was, the skipper had made a call because we had so many people that were from other units not familiar with the AOR. He made the call that if anything happened after dark, because air traffic control, radio towers were out, power was out everywhere. So street lights out, radio towers lights weren't flashing. So he made the call. Only the people that were local could fly night missions. So once the sun went down, all the people that came, and that was the majority of the people that were working at Harvey, they all went to bed, did maintenance or whatever. But if you're doing any flying after dark, it had to be a full local crew, not just one person or two people in the crew. So it had to be a full. So the local people were taking it easy in the daytime, so we could still get stuff done at night.
Except for
Obviously, I
you,
wasn't.
because
I
you're
wasn't able to
running the
really take it.
show.
Yeah, yeah. That was the 36 hours of. I think I got maybe 3 or 4 hours of sleep in that full 3-day period. Yeah, we stretched ourselves out pretty thin. But yeah, Harvey was it was something for sure, and we got caught. Let me start from the beginning, I guess.
All right. Yep.
So Hurricane Harvey, it's projected it's coming in the Gulf of Mexico. It passes the Yucatan Peninsula maybe 2 days prior to it making it to Houston, but it's tracking towards Corpus Christi. But it's a big hurricane, and its bands are reaching out, and we're seeing some rain days before it showed up. The day prior to it making its way up to Houston, we were between two giant bands. The bands were straddling Houston, and we knew it was a bad hurricane, but it had the track had basically settled on heading straight for Corpus Christi. So we kind of shifted gears at the air station. We sent the ready crew down south towards Corpus Christi to help those guys out, because there's another air station down there. And they actually started having some SAR cases middle of the afternoon prior to it turning and heading towards us. But like I said, the weather in Houston was beautiful. It lulled us into a false sense of security, and we had gotten all the gear ready. I actually have a really funny photo that I took with the leading chief, Travis Cutler, the day prior, because the skipper wanted to make sure we had all our gear ready. Of course, we had our gear ready, but we had our chainsaws, we had our heavy weather trail line bags, and we had all this stuff spread out neatly on the floor in the swimmer shop. And we're like, we're ready to go, bring it on, whatever. All that stuff, when the hurricane finally hit, all that stuff that we had laid out on the floor was gone in like the first 2 hours. So it was not. We end up getting some guys to Home Depot to backfill a lot of the equipment. Got some more chainsaws, got some more axes and stuff, and we didn't use that stuff as much as they did in Hurricane Katrina, but we were expecting that same kind of scenario. But like I said, the day prior, we were false sense of security. It was the night of the Mayweather McGregor boxing match. Floyd Mayweather.
Oh yeah. Oh God, I remember that day. Yeah.
It was that night, and it had been such a nice day, and everybody's like, "Oh, we're gonna go watch the fight." We had some neighbors. We got invited over to their house, and the hurricane was a topic of conversation, but it wasn't really at the front of everybody's mind, So I'm there for maybe an hour and a half, and then it starts raining. And so some people come in from out in the back area. They had a little picnic area, a pool, and a barbecue area. They came in. They said, "Well, it's really coming down out there. The fight's going on. The thunder's really picking up." And all of a sudden, the spouses are coming into the room where we're watching the fight, and they're like, "The backyard is flooding. The pool is filled up with rainwater, and the water's coming up to the back door." And we're like, it's just it rains heavy here. We're fine. The neighborhood we were in, it wasn't a flood zone. My neighborhood wasn't a flood zone. There's big storm trenches on either side of the roads all over the place. So never had a problem with heavy rain and drainage or anything like that. By the end of the fight, there's a foot of water out in the backyard above the pool deck, out in the front of the house. I gather the kids and my wife, and there's another family. They drove from our same neighborhood over to this house in a small compact vehicle, and their car had already had water up to the bottom of the doors. They're like, we're not going to make it home. I said, jump in my truck. I had an F-150. I said, hop in with me. I'll take you home. No big deal. As I start driving, I start to realize this is more serious. We're driving on the high end of the road, and the truck is making wakes. It's not
Oh
over the
my
hood quite
gosh.
yet, but it had only started raining maybe an hour before this. So the amount of rain that came down was just unprecedented. And so I tried going into our neighborhood several different ways, but to get into our neighborhood, there were some low areas where we were taking water over the hood, and I'd have to turn around, go, okay, let me try this other backside. And hindsight being what it is, I should have done what I saw a lot of people doing. They were at a strip mall parking lot. The cars of people that were trying to get into the neighborhood, they had parked there in higher ground. There's a couple police cars there with their lights going, and we're like, no, I'm going to make it home. Going to make it home because I'm thinking I got to get home because I got to get into work. I got to drop these guys off and get back into work. So we're making our way. I'm going through this low area. The water's starting to come over the hood, and there's a car that had been abandoned right in front of me. So I had to go around it. When I went around it, one of my wheels drops into the storm drain. So it's the lowest point in that road there, and I'm basically, I start spinning my wheels and try backing up, try going forward, try backing up, and I'm stuck in this storm drain. So now we're in an egress situation. So I'm like, everybody out. We hop out, and they're jumping out. My kids, my wife, these people that we gave a ride into stomach deep water. And when they once they hop out, their weight is out of the car now. Now my truck starts to float because everybody's jumped out. It was that deep. I climb into the back. My daughter, Layla, is in her car seat. I unbuckle her. She's sleeping, and she tells me her when she recounts her memories of me taking her out of the car and just getting rained on and putting her on my shoulders, and we just start walking into the neighborhood. But we're still several blocks away from our house. And my daughter Avery sees a water moccasin zip by. There's
Holy
people.
cow.
There's people out on the front porches. It's kind of like, what are you guys doing walking out this area? But the people that we had given a ride to, they had some friends that lived just a block away. So we make our way to their house, and they take us in. Yeah, it was crazy. Trucks floating away. We're in some stranger's house now. And then I start getting texts from our ops boss, Commander Sanborn at the time. And he's asking for locations and addresses of the guys, because people aren't, they're recalling people, but people aren't able to drive and make it into the air station. So nobody's getting the air station. Our B0 crew had already been sent off towards Corpus Christi. We had two crews, Corey Sykott, and I can't remember the other fellow, who had been donated to us earlier in the week from other air stations. So we're at that point, we're Air Station Houston, eight swimmers, myself included, plussed up by two. One of ours was down in Corpus, helping those guys out down there. So Ops is looking for crews now, and there's nobody that can make it in. So Ops starts texting me and asking me for addresses of these guys, and I'm like, why do you want their addresses? He said, I'm coming to get them. And he had this big blue extended cab, old, I don't know, 1980s, 1990s F-350, I think it was. I don't know.
Okay.
So I said, are you coming to get them in big blue or coming to get them in big orange? Just joking around, playing around like, oh, you're going to come. Of course, you're going to pick them up in your big truck, right? And he comes back, he says, big orange. And that's when it hit me. I'm like, oh, crap. They're going to fly out and pick everybody up from their houses. And that's what they did.
Oh, my God, dude.
That's what they did. So they had one plane that had a hoist that was disabled, so they couldn't use that one for hoisting for SAR. So they basically used that plane for a shuttle to pick up people from their houses. Or I was actually picked up from my daughter's school parking lot, or a big soccer field right next to it. But we had a hard time getting me to that field because there's so much flooding. It was coming down so fast. And so definitely caught off guard. And yeah, all the swimmers, flight mechs, pilots, they were all getting picked up in their cul-de-sacs at the end of their road, and from Walmarts and whatever. So it was wild.
Gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, how badass of a story is that? Like, and the Coast Guard helicopter lands. What are they doing? Some dude runs out. Da, 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 da,
Yeah.
jumps in, then free to take off.
Yeah. No.
Sick.
And the visibility was very low. So I'm thinking, okay, I don't have any flares, but I have some fireworks in the garage. So I took a couple of fountains out to the yard, and I'm trying to light it. But it's raining. It's raining so hard that it doesn't get lit. Luckily, I had a sleeping bag that was in a yellow case, and I was able to signal them. And they saw me because I didn't have a radio with me or anything. So I just told them the general area and signal for them. They found me. But and they had already picked up 2 other guys. The takeoff out of that spot, it was definitely a confined area, landing and takeoff. And we had pretty sketchy takeoff with my weight added to the plane. They came up, and then max power. They were hitting the amber, which is maxing out the gearbox of the engines, and we were still eye level with some power lines that we had to clear. So the pilot did a really good job. He backed us up as far as he could and sat us down. We sat there for, I don't know, three or 4 minutes to burn off some fuel, but we couldn't sit there too long because we burn off too much fuel, we're not going to be able to make it back. So we burned off as much fuel, get as light as we could, and then made the decision. Okay, we were talking. We're like, okay, what can we leave behind? We basically had our essentials, so we didn't want to leave anything behind. So he's like, all right, we're going to pull back up into a max hover and see how high we are. This next time we get up, and we're maybe power lines are probably level with the landing gear. So he comes down and then does a max power, and basically we kind of bounced up over these power lines and then dove and got some forward airspeed, and then dropped down over this neighborhood. And if you were in one of these houses, you probably get the crap scared out of you hearing a helicopter come screaming over the top of your house, and I don't know, probably 20 feet over the rooftops. It was crazy, but I mean, it had to be done, and pilot did an incredible job. So
wow,
that was just getting picked up.
That's just getting to the air station. You get picked up to go, then go to work. Oh man.
Yeah. And there's a lot of stories. You could spend an entire podcast. You should do this, actually, getting all the different guys from different air stations. We went from 8 swimmers, plus up 2 swimmers, and then by the next day we were at 74 swimmers. By the time I left, we had 74 total swimmers there, and it was like herding drunken cats, cats on acid. I don't know.
Oh, that's great.
All of this, and every unit was sending junior swimmers. So it was me as the chief and a bunch of 3rd and 2nd classes, a couple 1st classes who did an outstanding job. But the next highest ranking person, or the senior chief that relieved me didn't show up until 3 days later. So yeah,
Oh my gosh.
that was,
So
that was Bob
I get it.
Fluminense.
Oh yeah. Oh, Tattoo
Yeah.
Bob. I love Bob.
Yeah, yeah.
Love Bob.
Mhm.
Another guy I would love to get on this show. Anyway, I gotta emphasize this though. But I mean, not only are you trying to corral and coordinate stuff as the chief, you're also flying the ops. You're doing the job, going out and saving
Yep.
people. Like
Yep.
that's a feat in itself. So you're burning the candle at both ends on this whole thing.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And I learned really quick. I went out on one daytime sortie, and we flew back like a clown car. We picked up so many people. We filled the cabin up. At H60, you can fit a lot of people in there. I think
Yes,
we
you
came
can.
back. We came back with 9 people plus a cat, maybe 2 cats. I don't know. And yeah, and so I offloaded those, and I quickly realized from that, it's like, I'm out here. I did that, but I don't need to be that guy doing that. So I pulled myself out of the rotation after that, because there was just so much that needed to be done. And now we had enough swimmers. Enough swimmers were showing up at that time that we could backfill and fill the schedule. So
you're hold on, was it 82 lives, 28 lives, 28 lives, right?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
So you got it
I don't
down.
remember the number.
So
What did it
according
say?
to your air medal, it's 28
Okay.
lives. All right.
Okay.
So in your 28 lives that you saved, out of all that, you're talking that was like day 1, maybe day 2. And after that, you're
That
pulling yourself off.
that was day 1, and that was I only flew.
Oh, dude.
I flew on the 60, and that's where we got most of the saves, popping around, picking people up and dropping them off. And then yeah, that final load of people, I was like, all right, get another guy on here. But then I took myself off the schedule and saved myself for the evening flights for the local crew. So,
And still helping at night. So
Yeah.
maintenance, or not maintenance, sorry, your leadership and chief work and administrative work all day, and then being ready
Yeah.
at night,
Yep.
going well above and beyond. As a matter of fact, I know I said I wasn't going to read it, but I'm going to read a piece of it. This is well deserved, man. I just saying. So, a citation to accompany the award of the Meritorious Service Medal to Matthew J. Theissen, Chief Aviation Survival Technician. So, what I want to point out in this is throughout this unprecedented response, his expertly managed and unprecedented 75 Coast Guard rescue swimmers and 15 Air Force pararescuemen. That is awesome. And it goes down a little further. 1,512 flight hours flown, 736 sorties, saving the lives of over 1,780 people throughout the city of Houston. So the reason I want to emphasize that is because you earned that selecting and directing, guiding people where they need to do, and like you said, like trying to herd a bunch of cats. Man, we're a bunch of swimmers. We just want to go get them.
Yeah,
on,
I mean, it's understandable. They're all chomping at the bit, and but there's still maintenance that needs to be done. They still need to get their rest. Guys were coming back with bug bites and rashes and stuff, so we had to set up a little makeshift medical clinic for the swimmers. Our flight surgeon, Dr. Warner, him and the corpsman came in. And they basically took my office over and turned it into a little clinic.
Nice.
To treat the swimmers. The machine had to keep running, and it was the hardest thing was the guys that came back bagged out, getting them to rest, because they'd come back bagged out. They knew they couldn't fly anymore, but they wanted to keep helping out, so they're looking for things to do. I'm like, if you want to do something, get your ass in a bunk and get rested up, because this is still going on. And it trailed on for several days after it left Houston, and a lot of the crews followed the storm and its aftermath out towards Mobile, out east as it traveled off.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was a marathon.
Damn, man. Well done all the way through. You, the crews, and everybody that was there. Freaking awesome.
Yeah.
I had Graham McGinnis on here. He was talking a little bit about some of his stuff. So man, I love it. I love these stories. It never gets old for me. I tell you what, man.
Yeah, you
So-
should do a Hurricane Harvey. That whole hurricane season, I think we had, I don't remember how many named storms, but some 3 or 4 really impactful storms within like a month period. I think it was Maria that hit Puerto Rico a couple weeks after Hurricane Harvey.
Jeez. I don't
Yeah.
remember all of them. I remember being down and around the area though. Like just in and
Yeah.
out of there. Gosh.
Yeah, it was a serious season for sure. Yeah, and the other 2 lives saved on it was one of the night sorties that I took. That was really surreal because we know the area, but flying over the city of Houston when all of the skyline's normally lit up, right?
Yeah.
Flying, we got approved to fly over the city, and we were flying between the skyscrapers that were dark. And I actually called out a contact. I said, we got a contact at 2:00. And the pilot's like, nope, that's us. It was our position light reflecting off of the side of the building. I'm like, oh, 'cause I was
God.
unaided and they were under NVG. So I was like, I got a contact over here. But yeah, that was wild. And the ceiling was so low, we had to stay below. I mean, we have a low visibility route coming down the highway, and we were flying below. They're really high light towers, but we were flying at the same level as light towers. And since I was unaided, I wasn't able to see them until the lightning would strike, and then I'd see a cell tower pass. Lightning would strike, and I'd see a light post go right past the helicopter. It was wild.
Oh my God, man. That's freaking sick, dude. Wow. Damn, man. Freaking awesome. Well done. Well done indeed. Damn. All right. Anything else stand out to you at Houston you want to talk about?
Oh, not really. I mean, I'm the shop chief at this point, so I'm not flying as much as I had been at at previous units, but got some good SAR there. Had another case with a friend of mine, Mike Dibble, that stands out, probably because it's another case with another guy, and this was some more flooding. Wasn't a hurricane, but it wasn't a named storm, but some heavy flooding up in Cypress, Texas, where we had to swim through some high swift water and pull a couple people out of their houses that were flooding. And Mike and I ended up taking a lady and putting her in an igloo cooler, and floating her out. And and doing some pretty dynamic hoisting through tree canopies and past power lines and stuff like that. And the last thing I did before we went home and wrapped it up is I was down checking out a house, and a sheriff's boat showed up. A sheriff's fan boat came around the corner in this neighborhood to check out the same thing and see if they could help out or anything. And talked to the sheriff for a little bit, and then Hilo called down there at bingo. So I was like, all right, I got to get out of here. The house is clear. Nobody in there. So the sheriff, I waved goodbye to him, and he throttles up the fan boat and kicks off down the road. And as he does that, he does a little fishy tail, and he blows this pile of dirt on me as he rides off. And I didn't think much of it. I had my goggles on, so it wasn't any big deal. Then maybe 2 seconds later, I get lit up by these fire ants. That pile of dirt that he blew on me, it was a pile of fire ants, and it just coated me. And the flight mech said it was he was dying laughing because I'm down there doing the fire ant dance, and ants in my pants.
Literally.
Yeah, so I went home with all kinds of whelps on me. So good times.
Good times, man. Good
Yeah.
times. Bro,
Yeah.
this is insane. Dude, I've had a blast talking to you. You've had one hell of a career. From Houston, you ended up going back to Elizabeth City to which unit?
To ALC. So I went to,
ALC.
yep, ALC at ALC Tech for my first 2.5 years. But now I'm at ALC Prime.
Nice.
At ALC.
Nice.
So this is my Twilight tour, and I'm hanging them up here in a couple months.
Man. So there is one more thing I want to talk about, and that is we're gonna give. Actually, before I do that, let me drop a question to you because you've had an incredible career with some amazing rescues. You've been flying and doing stuff. Holy cow. I mean, since you got started, since you got qualified, you've been rolling hard. So out of everything you've done and seen, what advice would you pass on to the guys that are out in the field now, guys that are coming up, anything that stands out to you?
I would say, and I think the new generation is already doing this with their social media and their joy of filming themselves and everything. One thing that I regret is
Love it.
I didn't take enough pictures. All the things that I've seen, and I'm the kind of guy I like to take it in. And my wife gets mad. She's like, "Take some pictures." Like, no, I want to enjoy this. But there's a picture's worth 1,000 words, right? And
yeah,
if I had taken more pictures, I think it colors up the stories that you tell, and makes them more believable because some of the things we do are unbelievable.
agreed.
And, yeah. So
man, that's
take
good.
more pictures.
Roger that. Hey, that's why I carry multiple GoPros with me even now. Just gonna say, I'm gonna throw that out there.
Mm-hmm.
Is that authorized now? Because at the time, was it?
Well, that was one of the things, and that was one of my first projects when I got to ALSI. When we were in Houston, there were waivers. I think they were granted initially for like the Discovery Channel up in Alaska type things for them to use GoPros and cameras in certain situations, whatever. But all in all, it was frowned upon. Commands didn't necessarily want some of their cases to be, documented, kind of thing. And so, and maybe that wasn't the whole thing, but they, another thing is we didn't want our swimmers to be distracted. You're supposed to be doing your job, and if you're stopping and messing with a camera, so we were at Hurricane Harvey. We were sitting in the shop about this is the second day, and I think it was our command master chief popped in. He said, "We got the approval to go ahead and use GoPro cameras if you got them." But none of the guys had them because it was frowned upon. So when they gave us the approval, I mean, if we had a heads up, they could have gone to the store or whatever, but Hurricane Harvey snuck up on us. So we got the green light to use them, but we didn't have them. So one of my first initiatives when I got to ALC for ALC projects was helping out with getting the swimmers' cameras approved. And we use a couple different, we approved a Mohawk camera that goes, it's a low profile on the helmet.
Oh, cool.
It's it's swimmer proof. So you just turn it on, it vibrates, and it vibrates once to let you know it's on, vibrates twice when it turns off. But you set it up and you forget about it. So you just let it run. So we wanted something that wasn't going to distract swimmers. We wanted something that wasn't going to be a snag hazard. And so that's what we went with. We're now moving towards getting maybe in the future GoPro on the chest harness. But it's just, now that it's approved, and also they encourage filming that kind of stuff because it's good publicity for the Coast Guard, right?
Right.
So we're looking for ways to get that for good PR, and so I think it's a good thing. as long as it doesn't distract from the mission, right?
So I agree, and actually, I don't want to take away from the take more pictures, because I agree with you. I wish I had taken more pictures while I was in. I wish I had taken more videos. Again, frowned upon to when you and I during our time, and it was. I mean, heck, I remember it being in Humboldt. One of the guys trying to put a helmet on a camera on a helmet, and like one of the warrants came in. I was like, "That's unauthorized. You can't do that." And it's like,
Yep.
I know
It was unless you got that waiver. Yeah.
right. At the same time, now currently what I film everything now, and the reason I film everything now is more for training than anything else. So
Sure. Yeah.
and it's a great training tool, and for myself too. If I want to get better, if I want to be better at my job, well then review it. I mean, look at every professional sports out there. What do they have? They have video on the field, video on the court. Somebody's coming back and saying, "Look, you can do this, this, and this. Look at here, look at here." That's why.
And it's definitely a double-edged sword. Pros and cons. One of the things we at ALSI Tech, we have a lot of guys that they keep up with Instagram and stuff like that, and we bust a lot of guys at other units because they'll film themselves and they're telling on themselves basically with the equipment that they're wearing. If they're wearing something that's unauthorized, you see it right there. I mean, then we call up the unit. We're like, "Hey, we got a guy here. He's not wearing authorized this or that, or his configurations is not within regs." You know.
Yep.
We're not here to police you, but we're just saying. You know,
yeah. There is a standard.
You're telling on yourself a little. Yeah. So when I say take pictures, I don't necessarily I don't mean always taking pictures of your SARC and stuff, but I mean when you're on a boat, take pictures of the boat, take pictures of your friends, your maintenance, everything.
Yeah.
That just take the picture of the moose that's standing outside your hotel window. You know that you kids aren't going to believe if they haven't been up in Alaska. You know.
Right. Yeah. When you're standing on top of a glacier and you're like, "No, you didn't." Yeah, I got a picture to prove it. Yeah, I get it, dude. That's awesome. Matt, this has been an absolute pleasure, brother. I really, truly mean it. One little caveat before I let you go is we're going to announce this real quick. You actually have one more rescue that we didn't talk about right here. And if anybody actually picked up on it, it would be a rescue that earned you your very first air medal. That was out of Kodiak, Alaska. And the reason we didn't talk about it is because we have you and the skipper of the fishing vessel Hunter on in the next episode. So we get to sit down with you and the skipper that you saved with a crew of 4. Legit story. It's absolutely incredible, and I'm so excited to let everybody hear that side, because we get both sides of the story. So I'm pretty stoked about that.
I look forward to it. Yeah,
totally.
Great.
Bro, I can't thank you enough for coming on, dude. Thanks for the stories and all the advice. I love it.
Thank you, Jake.
Anytime. Love you too, brother.
Later, brother.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are out of here.
Go.
Now it's time for me to pull chocks and take off. But before I go, I'm always looking for the memorable rescues that people have done. If you have one that you're willing to share, or know somebody who has a story, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to highlight it here at The Real Rescue. For everybody that is standing by for that SAR alarm, remember, those in distress are praying for a miracle. They are going to get you. So until next time, fly safe and swim hard. Thank you for joining me today here at the Real Rescue Podcast, powered by Vertical Helicast. We'd also like to say thank you to our sponsors for this episode.
Axnis. The Axnis PNG wireless ICS system delivers cutting-edge wireless ICS technology to any aircraft. As a fully integrated system, or as a carry-on, carry-off mobile base station, the PNG wireless system is the right solution for any mission.
Oh boy, it's got some wheels. when he goes, it's freaking impressive. First we go for swimmer training, and then he wants to do sprints. Okay, I'm okay with that. Right? Right, Rhoda? Right? Oh. He's a good dog. Isn't that right, Rhoda Blade?